Imagine a company worth $70 billion. Voted the most innovative business in America, not once, but 6 years in a row. Its stock is a religion. Its executives fly on private jets and lecture the world about the future of energy. 20,000 people trust it with their salaries, their pensions, their retirement. And then, in the space of a few short weeks, all of it, the $70 billion, the jobs, the empire, simply vanishes. Gone. And when investigators finally sift through the wreckage, they discover the most disturbing detail of all: much of the profit that built this giant had never actually existed. It had been manufactured, invented, booked as real money on paper, year after year, while the actual business bled cash underneath. This is the story of Enron, the most admired company in America, and one of the largest frauds in history. But forget the idea of a single villain twirling a mustache. What Enron built was something colder and far more clever: a machine. A machine engineered to turn nothing into profit. And in the next few minutes, we're going to take that machine apart, gear by gear, because once you see how it worked, you'll start noticing the same parts being assembled today. Enron didn't start as a fraud. In the mid-1980s, it was born from the merger of two ordinary natural gas companies, pipelines in the ground, gas flowing through them, a real if unglamorous business. Its chairman, Kenneth Lay, was a soft-spoken economist with a genuine belief in deregulated markets. The trouble was, pipelines are boring. They grow slowly. And Wall Street does not reward slow. So Enron went looking for a bigger idea, and it found one in a man named Jeffrey Skilling. Skilling's vision was radical: Enron shouldn't own boring physical things at all. Instead of just moving gas, it would trade it, become a kind of stock market for energy itself, a middleman taking a cut of contracts stretching decades into the future. It was, genuinely, a clever idea. But it carried a hidden poison. A company that trades in promises about the future needs a way to put a price on those promises today. And the way Enron chose to do that would become the first gear in the machine, the one that let it start printing profit out of thin air. Here is the trick, and it is the heart of everything. It's called mark-to-market accounting. Normally, a company records profit when the money actually arrives. You sell a thing, cash comes in, you write it down. Simple. But Skilling wanted something else. He wanted to sign a 20-year contract to supply energy and then immediately book all 20 years of projected profit, right now, in a single quarter, as though the money were already in the bank. The catch? Nobody knows what energy will cost in 20 years. Nobody knows if the customer will even exist. So the profit is really just a guess, an estimate that Enron itself got to calculate. Think about what that means. If you want this quarter's numbers to look better, you simply guess more optimistically about the future. The profit isn't discovered. It's decided. Enron got approval to use this method, and once it did, the company had a machine that could conjure earnings on demand. Sign a big deal, book a mountain of imaginary future profit, watch the stock climb, collect the bonus. But this created a monster of its own. Because that profit was on paper, but no actual cash had arrived. And a company can only fake being rich for so long before someone asks where the real money is. Which brings us to the second gear, and this is where a clever company crossed into outright fraud. All those optimistic deals didn't just create fake profits. They also created very real losses and mountains of debt, failed power plants, investments gone sour, broadband ventures that led nowhere. If those losses showed up on Enron's books, the whole illusion would collapse. So Enron's chief financial officer, Andrew Fastow, built the second gear, a web of hidden companies. On paper they had strange names and looked independent, separate businesses that Enron simply did deals with. In reality, they were controlled by Enron itself, secretly designed to swallow the company's debts and losses and carry them off the books. Enron would quietly shove a failing asset into one of these shells, and, like magic, it disappeared from the balance sheet. The parent company stayed gleaming and profitable, while its garbage was hidden in a back room nobody was allowed to see. And here's the detail that turns clever into criminal. Fausto ran some of these entities himself, on the side, and personally pocketed tens of millions of dollars in the process. The machine wasn't just hiding losses anymore. It was enriching the very men who built it. Now, stop and ask the obvious question. A fraud this large can't be run by 2 or 3 people in a room. Enron had accountants, lawyers, a board of directors, and one of the most respected auditing firms on earth signing off on its books every year. Thousands of intelligent, credentialed people looked at this machine and kept quiet. Why? Follow the incentives, because they explain everything. The auditors were paid enormous fees by Enron and didn't want to lose the client. The Wall Street banks earned fortunes on Enron's deals and kept telling investors to buy. The analysts who dared to question the numbers were mocked, frozen out, sometimes fired. And inside the company, the stock was the drug. Everyone, from executives to ordinary staff, held Enron shares, and as long as the stock kept climbing, everyone got richer. To question the machine was to threaten your own paycheck. This is the quiet, human gear at the center of every great fraud. It isn't held together by a few liars. It's held together by a crowd of people who all have a reason not to look too closely. Belief, when everyone profits from believing, is almost impossible to break. Every machine like this has the same fatal flaw. To keep the illusion alive, it has to keep growing forever. The fake profits demanded a rising stock price, and the rising stock price was propping up those hidden shell companies, which were themselves stuffed with Enron's own shares. It was a snake eating its own tail. And in 2001, the tail ran out. The wider market cooled. Enron's real businesses were losing real money, and the hidden companies could no longer hide it. In August, Skilling, the architect of the whole vision, abruptly resigned as chief executive after only months in the top job, cashing out shares as he went. Inside the company, a vice president named Sharon Watkins wrote a warning to Kenneth Lay, telling him plainly that she feared Enron would implode in a wave of accounting scandals. She was right. That autumn, Enron was forced to admit it had overstated its profits by hundreds of millions and hidden enormous debts. Confidence evaporated overnight. The stock that had traded around $90 collapsed toward pennies. And in December 2001, Enron, the 7th largest company in America, filed for the biggest corporate bankruptcy the country had ever seen. The human cost was staggering. Roughly 20,000 employees lost their jobs, and many lost their life savings along with them, because their retirement accounts had been loaded with Enron stock that was now worthless. Ordinary workers were wiped out while several top executives had quietly sold their own shares near the peak. The damage didn't stop there. Arthur Andersen, one of the largest accounting firms in the world, was destroyed after it was caught shredding Enron documents, and 85,000 of its own employees, all over the globe, lost their jobs for a crime committed at a single client. As for the men at the top, Andrew Fausto cooperated with prosecutors and served years in prison. Jeffrey Skilling was convicted and sentenced to more than 2 decades behind bars. Kenneth Lay was convicted too, but died of a heart attack before he was ever sentenced. The scandal was so vast that it forced a rewrite of American corporate law, with sweeping new rules meant to make sure a company could never again lie this way. Meant to. Which brings us to the uncomfortable part. Because Enron was never really about Enron. Strip away the names, and what's left is a blueprint, a machine anyone can rebuild. Gear 1. Value things by your own optimistic guesses instead of real cash, so you can report whatever profit you need. Gear 2. When the losses come, hide them somewhere off to the side, in a structure too complicated for outsiders to follow. Gear 3. The human one. Surround the whole thing with people who get rich as long as they don't ask questions. Auditors, bankers, investors, employees, all quietly rowing in the same direction. That blueprint did not die in a Houston courtroom. You have watched versions of it run again and again, companies valued at billions on projected profits that never arrive, empires whose real numbers are buried in structures no outsider can untangle, crowds of clever people cheering because the stock only goes up. The warning signs are always the same 3 gears. Profit that is decided rather than earned. Complexity that hides instead of explains. And a room full of people with every reason not to look. So here's my question for you. Think of the most hyped company you can name right now, the one everybody insists is the future. Which of those 3 gears can you already see turning? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one.